Yo, what's going on? People's Canal here. Bulls on Wall Street. Hope everybody's having a great day. Want to talk to you guys. I just still having almost the shakes from even the action today, but wanted to go over trade today in this LFIN that I took. We had a pretty good day. I made about 7,500 give or take, but I totally left so much money on the table and goofed everything up here. And it's interesting what can happen in a frothy market. No matter how much money you make, you can get so much FOMO, which is really not good, but it's natural. You just got to kind of remember, like, that's just the game, But like, I was a misery today for a while because I have never really seen a move like this in this LFIN. So it was interesting. So in the morning, my morning routine, right? I like to run my gappers. I use trade ideas. I run a gap scan, 3% gappers to see what's moving. In the morning, I see Riot, this LFIN and Mara and a whole host of like kind of other of these Bitcoin stocks gapping up. So, I put them all on, my list, on my gapper list. You can see the Riot gap was pretty extensive. And same thing with LFIN, big gaps. And I had them on my watch list from the previous day, and then they gapped up like 80%. And I'm like, holy crap, like there goes my day, right? Because I had this perfect plan to trade this thing. As I missed it on Friday, I was I was not trading, and it gapped up like 80%. I'm like, crap. But one of the things remembered is that gap is a powerful thing, right? So just because something gaps up doesn't necessarily mean that the setup is over. If anything, it indicates strength and news, right? And so as long as we see a setup, we can trade it. What was really interesting is I got smoked out on the trade in the beginning because the damn spread. And so you can see here, like this thing gapped up and it went 1, 2, 3 candles sideways. So my rule is 3 candles sideways, and then when it breaks up the top of the range, you can buy it. So notice how like it just kind of peaked out, and so I hammered that thing, around 40 bucks, and I only had a few hundred shares of this thing, but you could see like it just goes drops $6 or $5 like right off the bat. And so of course I've got to sell and take a loss. I don't want to really stop out all the way below here because my risk would be way too low. And I stopped out of it twice at the open. And so this is kind of an important lesson too. So, I'm down on the thing, but that's okay. It doesn't mean, just because you're down doesn't mean you're out. You still got to kind of, if the setup is there. So what you can see here is it actually holds the 9 EMA and starts to cruise up. So when it broke over the VWAP, I get really excited. And the reason I get excited is that I use VWAP as a way to measure the line in the sand on a particular ticker. Volume weighted average price, the way I look at it in layman's terms is it's the average price of all the buyers and sellers, divided by volume in some manner. And so I look at it as a way, like a line in the sand on a stock to say, if you're above or below, it's going to act bullish or bearish. And so when it broke back above the VWAP, now I know that people are in the money, right? That they're in the money. And so I know that's going to give it a push. And then we have the high of day right here. My issue was when I added it down here, obviously there was a lot of room to fall. But when I re-added it, see how your 9 EMA was curling up right up under, right? Curls for the girls right up under that thing. And so, I re-hit that thing at 40. And this is where, obviously my, FOMO kicks in is that, so I hit this thing at 40 and, my first spike, of course, I sell off a half of it. I don't even have that many shares, but, look, regular trading, you go from 40 to 46, you're like sell off, sell, right? If you're trading any other stock. So I'm scaling out of this thing. I don't have that many left, right? So I sell off half, and then the next spike, I sell off 50. And, I ended up scaling out like 50 shares a time, but I got out of my last shares around 60 bucks because I was really worried about the halt. And it halted actually for a few minutes, for 30, 40 seconds or whatever. And then it kept going. And dude, I just left so much money on the table. I should have at least, I think in hindsight, at least written up like 50 shares or 100 shares around the 9 EMA. And look, it is dangerous because at some point it did get halted. So my intuition was right. And it opened back down at 50 bucks, which is just nuts, right? Imagine if you had like 100 shares. You're like the unfortunate gentleman or lady who would have bought it at 100 or 120 and it opens at 50. I mean, it's really going to ruin not only your day, but your week, but your month, right? Or more, depending on how much you have. And so I had the right intuition to sell it, but I really goofed up on this. I should have at least kept a few lotto and kept it going. Now, for me, selling, those last 50 shares, even at 60, I'm like, man, that's a 50% gain for me. But now in hindsight, as you watch it up, my FOMO was just kicking in like crazy. And the thing with this is that, so when you see one thing in a sector running, right? So this LFIN is running on the Bitcoin thing. You want to start hammering all the secondary plays. And so what I start to do is, as that thing gapped up, we hit this OSTK on the red to green, and then Riot was really my other second big mess up for today. I only made $1,000 on this thing because I got stuck in this kind of grind right here, and I was just getting kind of chopped out a little bit. And part of the reason was my stop loss was just too tight. I had too many shares. When you have too many shares, then you got to keep a tight stop loss. And so didn't dip down 50, 60 cents, and just rookie mistake. I got stopped out. And then ended up, hitting the 20 EMA and kind of curling up, and really busted loose here and went on a run. And so I did participate in this run, but it was just basically making back some of the losses I had. But where I made a mistake was, as you guys know, I don't really like to stay past, lunchtime. And so, I always meet with my trainer at 12:30. That way I don't overtrade all day. And so, the time was coming. Like I was in this thing again right here at 34.50, 1,000 shares. And I was looking at the clock. I'm like, man, Patrick's going to charge me if I don't show up, And so then I bailed, and lo and behold, like I should have probably just shredded this, kept staying. And that's kind of something that I have to work on too, is like working a full day in terms of trading. Sometimes you got to grind it out and work a full day. But historically for me, I don't make money trading a full day because I tend to make stupid mistakes towards the end of the day. I've always been like that. The trading is easier end of day, but you get bored, you just sit around the computer too long, and before you know it, right, you make a little silly trades. But there was definitely some opportunity here. We needed to hit this break here, and probably this flag here would have been, because I was done with the gym at this point at 38, but I already had locked my account. But this is kind of a fun day. It's interesting what's happening in the market, because obviously this is a little bit frothy. Will it stay up? No. Riot's probably worthless. This Morrow's probably worthless. This LFIN's probably close to worthless. OSTK, at least they have a website, right? Overstock people have used it. But it's interesting what's happening, in the Bitcoin markets. And for me, it's like, it's double bonanza, because I'm trading the actual coins that, the Bulls on Crypto Street chat room. So like, we have our own chat room over here, where these guys are just, all night, even at night, like things are really moving. It's perfect for those of you guys that have jobs, by the way. So I'm trading cryptos at night, and then, the market gaps up, and we're trading crypto stocks. And so it's kind of an interesting thing. But I'll tell you what, in my career, there was Dreyse last year that went to $100. But I mean, this thing just happened so quick with no shakeouts. It just straight up trender. And even the previous day, it really trended nicely. And that took me by surprise. I was thinking, just doing the calculations, some of my students that trade with us, a couple of them had like 100 shares, and like they're ripping like $400 or $500 trades. And even they're like, damn, like it's an account builder, right? As a smaller trader, sometimes you need an account builder. You have even 100 shares at 40, and if you can ride it to 60 or 70 or something like that, even if you're scaling out 25 at a time, you could make a couple $1,000. And so if you really think about it, 368, but I was down almost 2 right at the open, and so on and so forth. But it's been interesting. I think one of the things that you guys always have to be aware of when you're new is understanding where the momentum is. I think that's one of the things I do well is, in the morning, I do my homework at night, but in the morning I start to see what's gapping, and I always have a really, really good sense of, okay, the money's going to flow into tech today. The money's in blockchain, the money's in biotech, and focusing my list on that. Because one of the things is that, I don't take like 20 tickers in a day, right? It's like 4 or 5. So I have a really focused list, and I always do a good job picking the right stocks. And I don't sit there and run scans all day intraday. I didn't run any scans today intraday. I like to have my homework done pre-market. But one of the ways that even pre-market, I kind of get a sense of where the action is going to be. As I go through the gappers, I start to see common themes of like, okay, a lot of biotech stocks are running this morning. Maybe there's a bigger biotech stock that had news. Or like today, I saw all the gappers, and they were all the same kind of similar names that have been running lately. And so I knew blockchain was the play today. And so I'm not going to even take any other trade that's not a blockchain, except I did take Roku, which I made a few bucks on, nothing crazy. But that's, the nature of the action is you have to remember that as traders, you can have all the setups and all the techniques you want, but you're only as good as the stocks that you trade. You're only as good as the stocks you trade. You have a obligation to be in the best stocks that fit your trading style. So obviously my trading style is momentum. So I have to be in the best momentum trading stocks, right? If you're a range trader, then you have to find the stocks that fit that type of thing. If you do shorting, then you have to find the best stocks for that strategy. And so this is kind of my strategy, right? I like momentum. I like trends. And I think that's where really my strength is kind of eyeballing, where to go this without having to run like a million scans or have scanners running all day. I don't know how people do that, man. For me, it's like information overload. I want to concentrate on a few names and get going. So I hope you guys like the video. Remember that this is just kind of one of the things. Always remember too with these breakouts is my oven's going. But with these breakouts is, if the range is loose, you can drop down really quick. But if you let that 9 EMA curl up right up under it, then you're going to have a much tighter pattern. And then that becomes a way to limit your risk, but also to create explosion. Remember that when your range contracts like it does here, when your range gets contracting in any type of stock, and this happens in cryptocurrency too, as the range compresses, that builds up power, it builds up steam, and that's what can create that explosion. Think of it as like a pressure cooker, right? And when you start to really narrow that range, you're building up that pressure, and then right, you're off to the races. It's a fun little tactic that we use in trading. So hey guys, let me know if you have any questions. Hope you liked the video, and feel free to share and do whatever, and ask me any questions you need. Take care.